Asian Cup is complete, and I'm very keen to share with you today the story of engagement, because that's what it was. And I've got a few slides to tell you, but I think just reflect back on 3 minutes of remarkable Australian history on January 31, 2015.
Fantastic memories over the last 22 days of this Asian Cup of 2015. Australia has done it! The Socceroos, kings of the continent, for the first time, they're the champions of Asia in 2015. What a night in Sydney!
I think there's a remarkable thing that comes with sporting events, is that when the home team wins, the excitement that it creates. If you follow soccer and you watch Brazil in 2014, and the excitement that Brazil created as they won their way through the semi-finals, and the absolute agony when they missed out. And that was a bit like the Asian Cup. So I often describe it as an incredible event by every level, but with a fairy tale finish. So the story I want to talk to you about tonight is what engagement was, what it meant to me as a white-haired boy taking on a job after 10 years working in cricket. And Frank Lowy saying to me, Michael, what are you scared of? You need to take this job on. And I'm saying, Frank, I've got no interest. I don't want to move to Sydney. I live in Melbourne. I've got a wife and a dog, and I'm very happy. Why would I move up there? And another thing I've never heard of. And he kept saying to me, you don't understand. You don't know what you're missing. I don't know what you're scared of. And so, having left here for the interview with Frank Lowy, I said to my wife, look, I'm just being courteous. I've met Frank Lowy. This is a great opportunity for me. I'll say hello. And I went up, and in 20 minutes, he was sort of, what are you scared of? What are you scared of? What are you scared of? And I rang back on the taxi on the way back to the airport. I rang my wife and said, what are we scared of here? What if we were to go to Sydney for 3.5 years on holiday with the dog, which embarked probably on the most incredible experience of my life. So I've been lucky. I've been around a whole lot of things. I've been around sport. I've been in education. I ran a funeral business, ran Tobin Brothers for 6 years. All the stories, you bury your mistakes, see everybody one day. But sadly at 40, I wanted the opportunity to grow, and I took on the job of CEO of the Hawthorn Football Club post the merger in 1997, which was a bit like working in the funeral business because it was really tough. The club had just gone through a failed merger, and we managed to rebuild the club, and went to Tasmania and did a whole lot of things, and thankfully today the club is incredibly successful. I then had the opportunity to move into cricket, and it was the most amazing 10 years to work in a sport that we were the best team in the world. By that far it didn't matter. 16 tests in a row, Warnie taught me how to text, and lots of great stories about cricket that I shared. To be at Lord's on a summer's afternoon was very lucky that someone else was paying the bills, and of course to the Asian Cup. One of the things I saw very early in my time was this diagram, and it taught me something really, really simple. You know what it is? Ever seen it before? This is the Allied plan to invade Afghanistan, fresh from the White House, from the Pentagon. This was sent to General George McChrystal and said, if you implement this plan, you'll win the war in Afghanistan. McChrystal sent a message back to Obama saying, if I can understand the diagram, there's a chance we'll win the war. He was sacked for insubordination 3 months later. But it gets you into a thinking phase of, when I took over the Asian Cup, I didn't know it existed. I played soccer as a kid. I hadn't been intrinsically involved with countries like North Korea, Saudi Arabian countries, Iraq, Iran. I hadn't been involved with the UAE. So for me, it was an incredible learning experience. So I had a really simple philosophy. Let's keep it really simple. And this was no greater lesson for me as to why we should do that. So we set about in the very early days of planning for the best ever Asian Cup. Let's remember what Australia is to Asia, that Asia is not a place you can go to. Asia is a group of countries that are incredibly diverse. If you go from the fundamental countries of Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, right across to Japan, to the more Western countries of Malaysia and Australia, you get a group of people who don't even talk to each other, let alone understand each other's values. And such is Asian football. 47 countries that are enormously diverse. And as my chairman, Prince Abdullah, would say to me, often, Michael, you are very loud. You are very loud when you talk. Because as a Malaysian, that's something that he would say was unacceptable. But that's the way that we are. When I said to the AFC, or the Asian Football Confederation who own this event, you've got to understand that this event in Australia is about 27th on the horizon of people's interest. Football is not the number one sport in Australia in summer, not the number one sport in winter. It's an emerging sport with a massive participation base. And they looked at me, Sheikh Salman, the president, came out here for the preliminary draw and sent me a list of dates he would do press conferences. And I said back, so what are you announcing? Oh, no, I'm just doing press conferences. You've got to understand, our country, people just don't turn up to press conferences. You've got to be saying something. Whereas in Asia, when Sheikh Salman talks about football, 350 journalists will turn up to listen to his story. In Australia, no one will turn up unless you're announcing Shane Warne's retirement or what Shane Warne's done next or some drugs fiasco in sport or whatever it is. People only come. So it took a long time for me to get the AFC to understand that we had a lot of work to do in our country. So we set about building a mission statement which was really simple. It had three fundamental areas. Let's deliver a world-class event because Australia's good at it. Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, State of Origin, Test matches, Grand Prix, horse racing carnivals, we're really good at it, and Victoria's really particularly good at it. So let's put on a world-class event. Let's celebrate Asia's rich football culture. And that was really important because we didn't expect North Korea to bring too many spectators to the games. We didn't expect a lot of tourists to come from Iraq and Iran, but we expected expat communities, no matter how small. There were 208 Uzbekistanis as at the last census in Australia, So how do we track them down? But more importantly, how do we turn the sports-loving multicultural communities of Australia to be part of an amazing sporting event? And really critically, what every event should do is leave a long-lasting legacy. So that legacy for us was really, really important. It was about participation, infrastructure, building relationships, engaging communities, and the whole strength of the 2015 Asian Cup was engaging multicultural communities that I'll talk to you about shortly. And ultimately, this sport has 500,000, I think, participants, which is more than all the other codes combined. And yet, we have less A-League members than any other sport. So the natural progression of sport is to have a participation base, follow a team, you'll follow Collingwood, Carlton, Melbourne Victory, Sydney, whatever it might be, and then have a national program. We needed to build on that, and we needed then to make sure that we, as Australians, earned respect through Asia. And I can assure you that was probably the thing that I worked at most, because we were regarded almost in a difficult way as being people who were foreign to the Asian marketplace, because we were not part of mainstream Asia. And let's face it, we take all the World Cup slots because we qualify for the World Cup. We win the Asian Cup. There'd be a number of countries within mainstream Asia who'd be happy to see Australia out of football. So for us to maintain that relationship is really important. So again, that translated then to really 4 simple elements that we needed to deliver. World-class event. Let's drive tourism. How do we get 45,000 people to come to our country in January? How do we get them to spend an extra night? How do we get their communities to become part of what we do? How do we maximise trade and investment? 7 of our top 10 trading partners look to qualify for the Asian Cup. Japan, China, South Korea, really significant business partners where we're spending a lot of money. How do we engage them? How do we make those countries that are open for business to see that the doors open, the lights are on in Australia? And really importantly, how do we engage the rich multicultural communities of Australia? 25% of our population is born overseas. So there is an enormous contact with people in multicultural communities that we needed to address. Otherwise, you know what, the greatest failure that I went to bed every night worrying about was no one would come. We're a national televised event. What if no one comes? Because we looked at the opportunities before we started. They were quite simple. Broadcast 200 countries across the world, 7 of their top 10 I've talked about. This had a television reach of 2.5 billion people. 1 billion people watched China play Australia in the semi-final. It's not a lot of people. And they're not only seeing the Australian Chinese soccer teams They're seeing Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. They're seeing what our country has to offer. We entertained 3,500 international visiting media. And the stat that always surprises me, that 80 million people in 2006 played soccer. By 2020, that's expected to be 380 million. It's a massive gain by any imagination, and we needed to capture that in the Asian Cup. So, as I tend to do, often I look at things and try to learn from other people, and the Diamondbacks team in America, their CEO came up with a really simple plan which I loved, and that was FORTSI. And FORTSI was find a way to say yes. Find a way in all the things that you do to say yes. And that was really important to us, that yes, we can engage you. I understand you don't want to buy, you don't know what Ticketmaster is or Ticket Tech is, but you want a ticket to the game, and we'll sell it to you through your best friend who happens to run your local community. We needed to engage with those people. And we focused on three things: community, culture, and fan experience. And those were things that we felt we could deliver on because we could control. Because quite simply, it's a matter of this. It's give the customer what he wants, not what he pays for. So we made sure that we structured our ticket prices at a place where people could afford to come. $15 an adult and $5 a child. A family of four for $40 could come to an Asian Cup match. So we made sure that we were open for business, that we weren't greedy. You know, we budgeted $2 million profit, we made 24 million, which is great, but ultimately we got massive people to the games. We showcased what the event was about. And it was about this, and it's interesting, you know, I follow the AFL now through the media here, and they're lowering prices of food and drink at sporting matches to make sure they give the customer not what he wants, to give the customer what he wants, not what he pays for. One of the great challenges of running an event such as this was dealing with our partners. And our partners were 5 stadiums, 5 host cities across 4 states. It took me a year to do a funding agreement between the 4 states. I can now understand why it took 100 years to build a railway line between Melbourne and Sydney. Some people in Sydney, I've lived there for the last 3 years, say the best thing to come out of, people in Melbourne, so the best thing to come out of Sydney is the road south. And so you get into that parochialism. But we wanted to unite 5 cities: Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra, and importantly Newcastle. A rich, diverse football family of people who wanted to be part of what we did. And it was really hard. I can't explain the number of problems that we had trying to explain to stadiums that we're actually trying to attract people to your stadium to buy our tickets to eat your pies and pasties and drink your cans of Coke. So why don't we work together? Sadly, it's an issue that I think sport fights with way too much, that we should be in the same business. If you go to sport in America, you see the unity of the experience that you put on for the fans is not only comes from the clubs involved, but comes from the venue. So what do? We were out there, we were daring, we were different. We engaged fans, communities, businesses. We targeted governments and politicians. You know, I reckon I met 130 politicians of the 200 politicians in New South Wales knocking on their door saying, your state is spending $15 million on this event, what are you doing to promote it? And that was a really important space for us to get all of those bureaucrats and all those people behind an event, so if we build it, hopefully they will come. If they don't, I'm in for a very long retirement. So we set out very simply to say, no matter where you were from, we were going to deliver a premium product in every area. When an Iraqi player, a North Korean player, a Japanese player walked into our change rooms, it was a world-class experience. Everything was ready for you. Your bus was on time, that your interpreter was right, that your food was right, and even the way we greeted people. You know, my staff had to spend hours learning how to greet an Iraqi lady, an Iranian lady, how do you greet a Japanese person, so that we made sure that their experience here was something really, really special. And that engaged both with fans and of course with hospitality. We had nearly 800 VVIPs, dignitaries, heads of state, come from individual countries to our country to see their teams play. Excuse me. We had a policy that no one under the age of 18 was allowed in the hospitality room because of alcohol. Unbeknownst to me, I asked the King of Saudi Arabia's child to leave the hospitality business. Career-ending match problem. But our rules were our rules, and he was reasonably good about it. I did get a number of emails the next day, and Frank did ring me and say that was probably not a good move. But these were the standard of people who came to our country. So being able to recognise and respect them was really, really important. And we created that-match experiences. If you follow AFL, you'll have seen what Port Adelaide do before their games. In Adelaide, they have a great fan chant, they sing songs. We did similarly. We just never ever wavered from making sure this was hopefully going to be a great experience. Well, it was. We budgeted 350,000 people, we got 650,000 people. We had an average crowd of 20,000 people. For each of the non-Australian games, we budgeted 5,000 people. Our average was over 16,000 for each of those games. The game that really said to me something's going to happen and I'm not going to be the worst CEO of any Asian Cup or any sporting event in Australia was Uzbekistan versus North Korea. Day 2, ANZ Stadium. Saturday night we had Socceroos play Kuwait here. And on the Friday, on the Saturdays was game 2, and I'm thinking, oh gee, there's not many people, there's 208 people from Uzbekistan in Australia, and North Korea, I didn't see any visa requests flying in, so it could be empty. What if the stadium's empty? 17,000 people turned up. And it was remarkable. It was the start of something that just snowballed. And it became story after story after story. 9 sellout games. Japan versus Jordan sold out. Iran versus Iraq sold out. China versus North Korea. 25,000 people in Canberra. Where the frick did they come from? But they came. And it was like that experience of, what's that thing over there? We should go and watch that. Oh look, the prices are so good. It's a summer night, let's go and see it. So remarkably, we cultivated 650,000 people, and the icing on the cake was obviously the great performance of the Socceroos. When they were 1-0 down at the 8-minute mark of the very first game across the road here, I thought, holy hell, this whole tournament's going to collapse around me. But fortunately, they got up to win, and we moved on from there. And look, the numbers were quite remarkable. The thing that people don't understand about this event was it was only over 23 days. So in some cases, you had 7 matches in 20 days in Sydney, yet we averaged 31,000 people there. In Canberra, at Christmas time last year, we had 10,000 people who bought tickets, and I was ready to write Canberra off as the world's worst loss. We got 82,000 people come to Canberra. Had 7 matches in 13 days. Sorry?
In January, when there's nobody in Canberra.
And everyone said to me, no one will be there. And I'm saying, we've got something, but advertise broader. And we did. And, it became remarkable. But the really incredible stat was that 380,000 people of the 650 who came to non-Australian matches. And it was really incredible that we had that level of support. Even at the semi-final that Australia didn't play in, had 36,000 people in the rain, the biggest crowd ever to a semi-final that didn't feature a host team. So, incredibly proud. Now, there's only one game that didn't make budget, and that was the 3rd and 4th playoff in Newcastle. I think we budgeted 15 and got 12,000 people, which is probably good because 2 teams had missed out on the final. So it was incredibly exciting. The aspect of the part that really, really excited me was that we got Australia moving to some degree. Tourism Australia spent over $2,000 promoting the Asian Cup throughout Asia. I did X number of interviews with Iraqi television. I'd probably been to every significant Arabic event in Australia in the last 3 years. We sold 8,000 tickets to the Iranian community in Melbourne, and we didn't sell it via Ticketek. We gave a person 8,000 tickets who was a community leader, thinking that we might lose 200 or 300, maybe 1,000, but there are 8,000 tickets we'd never sell. We got a reconciliation back to the dollar. Every ticket that person took on board, and 8,000 of them bought tickets. The owner of Guangzhou in China bought 10,000 tickets to the Chinese games. So the community involvement was quite incredible. And Andrew Robb had become a really dear friend. Having seen what we'd done to take the sport into the international trade environment, said this was the blueprint that we should focus on for international events. I remember I went and met all of the high commissioners that were in Australia at the time of the Asian Cup. I went to meet the South Korean ambassador, and we were having a very formal discussion over a cup of tea at his house, and we were chatting away, and I said, look, I think your team was really poor at the World Cup. Well, that just opened up a discussion that I'd never expected. We went from being very formal, and he was saying, we should have sacked the goalkeeper, we should have got rid of this guy, we'll get rid of the coach, and it just showed the language of sport that can permeate. And we saw that again during the Cricket World Cup, just India being here and their incredible enthusiasm for the sport. So sport has a vehicle to play in the negotiation, the role that we play across Asia and across the world. We're just got to make sure we use it properly. Match Australia, look, I won't go into a lot of questions about this, but we formed a project with the federal government called Match Australia. We ran opportunities throughout Southeast Asia and here in Australia to bring communities together. And communities come together for a variety of reasons. One is to celebrate who they are, the other is to celebrate what they love, and the other is to do business. And being able to bring them together was a wonderful opportunity for us through this. We did tours of UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, China. I even went to North Korea, which is, you actually don't book a flight to North Korea, they come and get you. They take you there and they tell you when you're going home. I was pretty happy with that. So, for us it was about making sure that we engaged. And then of course within the Australian landscape, of the $61 million worth of government funding, we invested about 50 million of it back into infrastructure with Australian companies in technology, construction, media services, broadcast. So, this was a great government spend on international event, but we made sure that we maximised people coming and we maximised that opportunity. And then we did some numbers after the event of the things that we'd done, and it was quite remarkable that we'd done nearly 2,000 flights for teams and match officials. We'd served 25,000 meals in all different foods, halal, Western, Japanese. Even the Japan team went to Cessnock. Have you been to Cessnock? It's blink and you've missed it and you spent a week there one night. A lovely little town, great people. They had pop-up sushi villages for the players so that the people who came, as they trained there, ready in preparation for the Asian Cup. And we did nearly 7,000 room nights for AFC delegations, and we washed 86,000 pieces of laundry. Such is the extent of an international event that we estimated, very rule of thumb, but if we went from the boundary line out about a kilometre, we touched about 8,000 people every match. From people who worked, volunteered, ran coffee shops, pie shops, buses, trams, trains. Remarkable influence that an international event. And when you look at the numbers of things that you do, you think, wow, someone must have done all that. I'm very proud of it. It was really good. The two great pieces in our story was their volunteers. We had over 1,300 volunteers. We really made sure in this environment that we had the right volunteers. We police checked them, we interviewed them, we took into account what their skills were. Why would you be a volunteer for the Asian Cup? This is not the Olympic Games. And of course we trained them. And they were remarkable. We lost one volunteer of those 1,300 during the Asian Cup. And we only lost him because someone ran over his bike at Stadium Australia and he couldn't get there the next day. We subsequently bought a bike for him so he could come back to his volunteering at the end. That was the remarkable spirit that we engendered, or they engendered amongst themselves. And volunteering is a huge part of Australian culture and really, really important for us. I said earlier, the strength of the 2015 Asian Cup was built around our communities program. We appointed more than 200 community ambassadors across the 5 host cities. We went to each of the major communities, and I must admit it was the major ones. It was China, Japan, South Korea, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and talked to them about who are your community leaders? Who are the people who want to get behind this event? And those communities identified their leaders for us. We gave them a t-shirt and a hat. The rest was volunteering and a ticket to the final. And they did amazing things. When Iran played Iraq at the quarter-final in Canberra, we were pretty conscious that it's a pretty difficult world scenario. they, within their own community, appointed ambassadors to wear different t-shirts to calm the crowd down. And if you remember the event, if you remember the game, it was 1-1 net after full time, 3-1 after extra time, and Iraq had a player sent off. So Iran had a player sent off by an Australian referee from Canberra. So all the hallmarks of being a very challenging environment, and yet the singing, the cheering, and the support lasted well into the night. We participated in more than 100 community events. We actually had a Community Asian Cup in Sydney and a Community Asian Cup, which Football Victoria supported, happening here at John Cain Memorial Park, where the local communities came together under the guise of the Asian Cup to play football. Same in Sydney. We partnered over 70 multicultural media outlets to promote and encourage people to come along. It was a really incredible, passionate experience as the people came into the games. We got involved with all sorts of people. In Newcastle, we had a Men of Football. There are people over the age of 35 who love the game. They had a domestic event, invited teams from all around Australia to come and play there before the Asian Cup. We got involved with the Sutherland Shire Titans Football Club, who are about football for disabled young people. And to be able to take the Asian Cup and get them involved. And then as a legacy, we left them a whole lot of equipment which they can hopefully grow their sport. Meant that all of the different multicultural groups we work with, but more important, people who love football, could move forward together. For us, there was really, multicultural engagement was about increasing awareness of the Asian Cup. It was about making sure that we engage with multicultural communities. It was about building a database of people we could hand back to FFA to make sure that they grew the game by taking those people under their wing, which they're doing now, and you saw the blueprint if you follow football today, for the next generation. That includes women, and it really includes embracing multicultural communities. And of course, we won in spades, getting people to come to non-Australian matches. So quite easily statistically, we had 193 events, 280 ambassadors, 15 ticket partners across that time. But I stress, the theme of this was about engaging. It was getting from your office to the people and talking to them about the game they loved. And that there are so many people outside these walls, outside these streets, who love this game, who are not of Western origin, but they're passionate about the sport. Lots of really nice things said from the media, which was great. One of the things that I picked up on recently, which is a great hint for, I think, where sport's headed. Melbourne Storm, who are well known here, have built a program called Lightning Rewards, where they are rewarding their people who come with particular different prizes, different benefits, because they're involved in their sport. You go to most of the AFL clubs, you buy a pack for $150 or whatever it is now for a membership pack, and in my time at Hawthorn it was $100. And we give you what we think you need, not what you want. To Melbourne Storm's credit, they can then also cash in their points for a whole lot of food and beverage, game day experiences which can be rewarded. And I think this is the future of where sport needs to go. It needs to take its spectators and supporters on a journey that allows them to be involved, promote the game, be on social media, and I think that's the future of where sport's headed. The other really significant program that we ran was we paid for and delivered an online educational program which was built by leading academics across Australia, that was online for primary school teachers to teach young people. It was about Asia. It focused on mathematics, social studies, English and physical education, and the idea being that you could go as a teacher, get the lesson plans off the net. All you need to do is register. It was all free, the lesson plans, the syllabus outlines, and teach the kids. And it was really, really successful. We had over 53,000 people at 381 schools who were signed up to the program at the time the Asian Cup started. And programs like this were just incredibly successful. And what it did was just, again, teach people about the multicultural nature that Asia brings to our country. We are part of Asia. It's our backyard. It's where we do business. It's now where we play sport. We hosted over 3,000 people in our media throng. And importantly for us, it was about what experiences can we give them beyond the event. So yes, they'll go to training. Yes, they'll go to the matches. how do we get tourism to engage with these people? So the pictures they're sending back overseas are about Victoria, Sydney, well, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, the ACT. It was about how do we engage with them to make sure that these people had a great time. 52 countries attended the Asian Cup. Again, raw statistics, 5.3 million people nationally watched the final of the Asian Cup. Remarkable numbers for ABC and Fox Sports. Fox Sports had an average of over 100,000 for each of the matches and over 400,000 for the final. A bit disappointed because we've done a deal with the ABC to show it nationally, and of course, you know, people again love their country. We love our country. We're proud of it, and we're proud of what it's achieved. And the Asian Cup just proved again. And scary figures. 315 million people watching across those countries at every level. It was a remarkable event that promoted our country and showcased our country with not one problem, not one contractual problem, apart from the guy with his broken bike. Most people, I think, got home. DFAT told me there might have been one or two stragglers, but countries came here, had a great time, and of course went home at the right time. And of course, social media numbers for us. One of the challenging things about working in Asia is that their social media networks, unless you're on Weibo, don't exist. They don't think Twitter is not the rage it is here. So we needed to get control of things like Facebook and our website. And now simply there, the Facebook pre-tournament was 40,000 followers. We grew to 670,000 by the end of the tournament. And likewise for all of the other mediums as well. And our website was something that we fought for over a long period of time, and 13.5 million people on our website went there during the Asian Cup. So again, it was a microcosm of what our country had to offer. It was 23 days. That was all. You think of the Asian Cup. I think like the Cricket World Cup, 59 days that seemed to go forever. Everyone played each other 73 times. The speed at which the Asian Cup came and went was incredible. Just my last thought. I love this slide because I saw it somewhere just about where the world's at. Uber is the biggest, largest car hire company. It does not own a vehicle. Facebook is the world's most popular media owner and has no content. Airbnb is the largest accommodation provider in the world, has no rooms. Something is happening to the world that allows people to think creatively. And that's a great thing for us. And that's where our country, I think, given its youth, its dynamism, its enthusiasm, the Asian Cup, the Cricket World Cup, what we do to celebrate being part of a multicultural country, shows that there are people out there being creative every day, and we must never lose that. We must never lose that ability. And as I say, those stats are quite compelling. For those that are soccer nuts, 85 goals, the most ever. There were 24 consecutive games without a draw, which was really quite amazing, and 32 fantastic matches. Happy to answer any questions.